Hello, everybody. This is Nick the Terrell, Professor of Information Technologies and Computer Science, Lakeland Community College. Let's talk about subverting IDS, IPS systems. Now, you notice I use the phrase subverting. It's not a question that we are hacking them or we're trying to bypass them. If they're on the network, they are a concern. Now, generally speaking, there's several variations of what we can do to subvert these IDS, IPS systems. Probably the concept that is most important is to know your enemy. Know what you're doing, know what tools you're using, understand the basic concepts of IDS, IPS, understand what potentially the thresholds that are involved. So you need to know your enemy and then know the tools that are going to be associated with it. We're going to do a series of subversions, some simple techniques. I'm going to be using Nmap. I'm not going to be using any sophisticated tools. If you're dealing with pen testing, ethical hacking, networking in general, networking security, you should be well familiar with Nmap and what it does. But also understand it is a pretty robust tool. People can spend a career using Nmaps. Let's go to my computer. Let's take a real quick recap of an IDS IPS environment. If you haven't had a chance, please watch the video about IDS IPS. But let's take a recap and then let's see what we can do. So if you saw my video about IDS, IPS, this is the network that I'm working with. We're dealing with an intrusion detection system, basically a passive monitor whose sole purpose is to listen to the network and detect and alert the proper authorities, the proper people, versus an IPS, an intrusion prevention system, which is in line, which is meant to stop a situation before it gets out of hand. So we're dealing with an IDS here, basically detection and alert. We're going to be using a software package called Snort. It's an open source IDS package, and it's also an IPS package. It's open source, fairly easy to understand. In this video, we're not concerned about setting up Snort. We are just doing some pen testing on a network to see if we can subvert or kind of get around what Snort is doing. I don't want to use the phrase getting around. Here is the machine, this Metasploitable 2. We're not really pen testing Metasploitable 2. I'm just using it as a dummy machine, and I'm going to be doing my subversion from my Godzilla machine. So now let's go up to my machine and let's see the two in action. Okay, so I have two machines up on my screen here. The screen over here on the right is Godzilla. That is my attacking machine. Godzilla will be going after and trying to find information about Metasploitable 2. That's not up on the screen. We don't care. We care about the server, but we don't need to see what's going on at that server. So on the right side, we have the attacker Godzilla. It's going after Metasploitable 2. And on the right side, we have our IDS system, our Snort system. And all Snort's going to be doing is listening to traffic. The first thing, and this is kind of an overarching approach, is know the tools. Know what you're using and what they are doing in the background. For example, many people start with ping. Well, there's a lot of disadvantages to ping versus, not even talking about IDS and IPS. First of all, ping don't cross routers, they don't cross firewalls. Ping can be extremely chatty, so they phase, a lot of times we phase that out. So if I was to do a ping on Metasploitable, you can see very, very quickly that the IDS, and this IDS is not hypersensitive. I just left it as its basics. It's not hypersensitive. It's just listening to the network. So this particular IDS system says, if I hear ping, if I see those ICMP packets, I'm going to just alert people, let people know that somebody's pinging on our network. So one of the tools that we can use, again, that we need to study and need to better understand is Nmap. And Nmap allows us to do different types of pings, different types of probes. If I use a standard ping, it uses ICMP. But with Nmap, I can use different varieties. There's a whole variety of things we can do to probe a particular computer. Some are extremely aggressive, some are extremely passive. Let's do one that's fairly a passive. It's called a SYN ping. It doesn't use ICMP. And if I just basically say Nmap, that's SN, we used to use SP, but they kind of got rid of it. Now it's SN. And I say, okay, I want to know about 1.14, my Metasploit, and I'll do it verbosely. So I'm going to go out there and basically see if anything's alive. I'm going to go see if 10.0.1.14 is even alive. It's called Search for Life. And very quickly it said, oh yeah, it's open. It's a very passive ping. You'll notice that nothing happened over here. So again, rudimentary at best, but you understand that by using the appropriate tool. We still use ping, but I've phased out ping in my network testing and stuff like that because so many devices just ignore ICMP packets, and you can even see in this particular situation. So just by knowing my tools, get away from the standard tools that most people know, ping, traceroute, and tools like that, and go to a more sophisticated tool like Nmap where I can control the ping. I'm doing the exact same thing. You know, I am doing the exact same thing here. And even with Nmap, there's more variety. I can try doing this with many, many hosts. And let me do that real quick. This will be a boring situation because I don't have a lot of hosts on that network. But I can say nmap.n10.1.0, everything on the network, and away we go. So right now, it is trying to ping 256 hosts. You can see that it was extremely fast, but yet no activity over here at the IDS. Know your tools. The next thing is slow things down. So let me pause, get my machine ready so you don't have to see me log in and logging out. Let's slow things down. All right, earlier in the video, I did a very passive Nmap, where I just did it nmesh n0.1.14-v, and it went out there and discovered life. You'll notice that the IDS system didn't really care about that. It didn't deem that as aggressive. It wasn't using ICMP. But as we work on these, if you follow the CE Certified Ethical Hacker approach of this methodical approach of finding life and determining things are getting more aggressive. So if I was to do a nmap-st, and if I just say that, it's going to discover a bunch of ports. And at a certain point, it's going to hit a port or two that it's saying, that's interesting. You'll notice that it jumped there. If I want to go even a little bit more aggressive and say do a banner grab or do a fingerprint of the operating system, if I say nmap, let me clear this, and sudo, now it's so aggressive that I have to elevate my privileges to do it, to use it. And if I do this, I got to give it elevate my privileges. You'll start seeing that the IDS system has some issues. All right. As I mentioned, we can slow things down. If I just give it a -t value, the normal speed that Nmap runs at between a scale of 0 and 5 is 3. That's the normal speed. That's whenever you just type it, that's what it's going to run at. If I give it 5, if I give a t value of 5 and I hit it, it's going to go real quick. It's sending a lot of packets, sending a lot of handshakes. It's doing a lot of things very, very quickly. Now, the IDS, IPS systems may have an issue with that speed. You know, it's too aggressive. It's just saying, why is this particular situation happened in such a short amount of time. That's not what happened here, but some IDS, IPS systems do that. They just don't like the aggressive nature here. So what I can do is just slow things down. If I give it a t value of 0, this potentially can take hours because it's going to send those handshakes very, very slowly. Now, if the IDS IPS system has a threshold where it's looking for certain activity very fast, maybe we can fly under the threshold. At a minimal, that this can take hours. At the same time, over those hours, other things may be alerting the IDS system. So if I run it at 0, I'll do it right now. I'm not going to run the whole thing. It hasn't even started. It's horribly, horribly slow, but it makes sense. Remember, it's about the methodology we use. If we go in there as gangbusters, if we go in there as bulls in china shops, these IDS, IPS systems are going to be sending out alerts, and we don't want that. But by just slowing things down, we may either fly underneath a threshold where the IDS just ignores it, or it's an alert every hour or so that kind of gets shuffled with the other alerts. Let me close this because I don't want to sit here for hours. And let me do it with an alert of 2. Even an alert, a time of 2. 3 is the norm. We saw the normal speed. 5 is hyper. If I say 2, it just a little bit slower. Just a little bit slower at a time, and the IDS may pick it up. This one will definitely pick it up. It'll pick it up, maybe get shuffled with all the other alerts. So running things slower in pen testing is always a better option, but you're giving up time. Many times it takes a long time for these, but I often encourage people slow things down. That's so we can again subvert a lot of these particular situations. Let's go on to the next one. All right, the next, again, a simpler method for subversion is to send out decoys. And there's several approaches. One is I could actually have live machines out there as decoys that are doing, lack of a better word, mischief. We would call those zombies, where they're doing other things where I'm sitting at the machine or I'm launching from another machine. So it'd be harder for me to trace. I don't have the equipment to do that. So I'm going to use the Nmap decoy. And what the Nmap decoy allows me to do is I can send all that stuff that I did before, but can say it's happening at these other machines. These other machines are doing it too. So somewhere in all that traffic, yeah, the information is going to come back to me. I can't hide that the attack that's coming from me. But if I have a whole bunch of other machines out there or pretend machines out there, again, they're just decoys, then the IDS is going to have all these complaints, and the network inspectors are going to have to go in there and see which one is not, or which one is not the decoy. So let me set that up. And again, I'm going to use the same tools, but you know what? I'm going to go just a little bit louder. I'm going to go just a little bit stronger, and I'm going to do, it's so strong, I got to go as a sudo. I'm going to go with a what they call a two-way handshake. So we normally have a three-way handshake. This is a two-way handshake in which only the first 2 parts occur. So it's a little bit more aggressive. The IDSs might say, why are we getting just 2 out of 3 handshakes going on here? So, and you know what? I'm going to even do a banner grab. I'm going to see what operating system is out there. That will definitely should cause problems. And I can say, okay, O just tells me what operating system's out there. And we're going to say 10.0.1.14. And we're going to do it at normal speed. And we're not going to be doing anything except doing a normal approach. Of course, I got to give it the password because it's a sudo now. And you can see that the IDS detected things. It even picked up some more information. This little Xmas scan, that's basically trying to say that it's going out there and it's looking up the operating system. Not so much concerned about the specific alerts, but just more alerts are happening because I'm being more aggressive. So let's set up some decoys. Make sure I'm on the right screen. Let's set up some decoys, and I'm going to use the exact same command. But this time, I'm going to do an uppercase T, and I'm going to say it's coming from 1.2, comma 10.0.1.3, 10.0.1.4, comma. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger so you can see it. And write it out. And I'm going to say random. Create 10 random IP addresses to alert. So 10, I'm going to say 10 here. So it's going to pick up, remember my machine is at 10.0.1.11. It still needs to do that, right? Because I want that information back to my machine. So we still will see that in the IDS alerts. But now what I'm going to see is a whole bunch of people are asking for that information. That's what the decoys are. So let it run. Give it a second. And there it goes. Now let's take a look at the alerts. Let's see what the alerts have happened. It's still discovering ports. The more things it discovers, the better. Let's take a look at the alerts. Wow. Now this is interesting. Remember, I launched from 10.0.1.11, but yet we are getting attacks from 10.0.1. We're getting attacks from 10.0.1.3. We're getting attacks from 129, 777. Now, these decoy methods aren't that they're not that well produced. Okay, yeah, it's pretending to send pings to, or actually syncs to that two-way handshake to that device. But you'll notice if I look at this one right, oh, I can't highlight. If I look at any of these, you notice this little arrow right here. That's meaning one way. So it's saying that address is talking or trying to talk to, it's trying to say 10.0.1.2 is trying to talk to 10.0.1.14. You will notice that we can't see, also because it's that two-way handshake. So it really confuses it confuses the network because, again, we're only establishing that two-way handshake, and it looks to be only going in one direction. I still gathered information. Let's see if I can find one that's kind of coming back. You can see it's a challenge. It is a challenge for this information to come back to it. Oh, right here. Right here. If you look, it started at the legitimate address of 10.0.1.11. And right here at one point, that computer that I was talking to, see if I can make it just a little bit bigger. That kind of takes it away. The computer it was talking to does respond back. Can I? Nope. All right. So it was at the very top. So yeah, right here. 10.0.1.14 right here. Did reach back to 10.0.1.11. So if I had to go through these logs, even if I was to randomize the decoys, this one could be a little bit easier to thwart. But again, immediately we're going to get a whole bunch of these alerts if we slow things down, if we start adding things together by using the right tool. by slowing things down, by doing these decoys. Each one of these methods can be very accumulative. The last method we're going to use, we're going to flood the IDS system. We're going to send so much information to it in a variety of ways that it's just going to spit out. It's just going to spit out a whole bunch of information, and then we definitely have to go through the log. So let me pause my machine. Let me get my machines ready, and away we'll go. Okay, this is going to be the last one in our little series of subverting. Again, I want to use Nmap and all these. I'm going to use one more little tool here. What I'm going to do is I am going to flood the network. I am going to flood the IDS IPS system. Now, with the decoys, I kind of did a little flooding, but it was still from one machine, and I'm saying, go look here, look here. In this one, I'm going to put all those parts together, but I'm going to do a little bit more. And what I want to happen is that the IDS SES gets so overwhelmed, I can't do it on my machine, that maybe it shuts it down or gets backlogged. That would be interesting. I doubt that would happen, but if I can overwhelm it so much that the IDS just slows down considerably. At a minimum, I should be seeing a lot of alerts, right? So your inspectors and everything has to then address those alerts. First thing I'm going to do, you'll notice on my Godzilla machine, I have things set up so you guys don't have to see me sit here and type. I'm going to start with a flood, a little denial of service attack. This not going it's kind of a weak denial of service attack, so I don't think the IDS, or actually the IDS, is not going to pick it up. But what I'm doing with this flood is I'm using HPing 3, flood the port 80 on the actual IDS system. So I have the address of the IDS system. This might be a little boring, but at least I begin to flood some things. So let's start the flood. Give it the password. And right now it's in here. Now you'll notice that the IDS doesn't really care. It's just not that big enough of a flood. If I was maybe to do a distributed situation, then maybe it could pick up, but it's just kind of saying, okay, it's not worth my time. But I am putting a little bit of stress on the actual IDS system. Let me go to the next tab. Now in the next tab, I'm going to be doing a Nmap. I'm going to be using decoys in this. So what you saw in the earlier part of this video, I'm going to say Nmap. Let's do the two-way handshake. We know that's going to cause problems. We're hitting the device that we're interested in, 10.14. We're giving it decoys. You know what? Maybe I'll make the decoys a little bit more. The more the merrier. So this we saw before. But again, we're being a little accumulative here. So I say, okay, away we go. It just took a little longer than I thought. I suspect the flood is happening there. Over here, you can see the IDS is rolling away. Let's go one more, and I'm going to do another flood, right? So I'm just going to keep on flooding this. So, but with this one, I'm going to be a little different. The first one, I just said do it one time. This one, I'm going to say repeat it every 5 seconds. This little command here says watch -N that says repeat this command every 5 seconds. So the first one I just said, okay, send it all out. This one, send it all out, wait 5 seconds, send it all out, wait 5 seconds. So this one, let's get this one going. My machine is running really slow now. You can see right up here, the processor utilization is a little high. So let me pause here. All right, while it's my processor utilization extremely high, let's go to my actual attack. This is the device, this is the screen where I'm gathering the information that I really want to see, right? I'm not doing any decoys, but I've just kind of stepped back and I say, okay, let's do a scan for vulnerabilities. And let's be very aggressive. It's going to use every single script in the Nmap category. That's what the dash A says. So this one's an extremely aggressive scan. And that's fine. I want to gather that information. Let all the other stuff, let the IDS worry about all the other stuff. And now I'm kind of going around and saying, this is the scan I want. It's going to be slow because my system utilization, if we look right here, is just really, really high. And it basically started. This particular scan, by its very nature, may take a long time. You can see it's starting to pick up things. This scan could take some time. It's got to run a whole bunch of scripts. Over here, we're getting a whole bunch of traffic on that IDS. So let's wrap things up. Let my machine kind of calm down here, and let's wrap some things up. So we're subverting the IDS IPS system. This happened to be an IDS system. Let's recap that. Intrusion detection system, basically sitting there passively listening to the network versus an intrusion prevention, where it's a pass-through approach where the information, all traffic is going through the IPS system and it can stop it. This is just alerting and making people aware. General approaches is one, know your tools, know what you're using. Ping can be extremely chatty. Also, ping doesn't work in a lot of situations because things get ICMP packaged. Use a better tool. So don't use ping traceroute. Use something like Nmap, which I demonstrated here. The next thing is slow things down. We could be dealing with the IDS, IPS systems having thresholds that say, hey, if something is happening too fast, there might be a problem. Or it slows it down enough that you're gathering information at a slow enough time that the alerts kind of fall into where all the other alerts could be also. So slow things down. The use of decoys. Now we can use real decoys or zombie machines out there. I couldn't demonstrate that. Or we can use an Nmap situation. We're saying we're going to send out from these random IP addresses and these IP addresses, etc. And then finally, overwhelm the IDS system. Overwhelm it with it's going through alerts, it's dealing maybe with a denial of service attack or something. Now, as a pen tester, all this comes into play. Let's take, for example, you're trying to overwhelm the IDS system as a pen tester. You're seeing if you can push it to failure, plain and simple. And if you can, then what you have to do as a pen tester is let your customers or the individuals know at this level, that IDS system starts slipping. It starts having problem. Train the networking people to look at decoy situations. You saw some of the decoys where the stuff appeared to be going from the decoy, but nothing was ever sent back to the decoy. So a little bit of education, a lot of bit of education in this and watching decoys. Knowing the tools, obviously, and eventually slowing things down. You may have, if you're able to subvert the IDS, IPS systems by slowing things down, you may have to inform people that maybe the threshold has to be adjusted, or they have to be, again, more careful reading the logs. So we're really not pen testing the actual IDS system. We're seeing if we can subvert it, and if we can find issues associated with those subversions, then obviously we let people know. So with that being said, let's go and learn something.